Only two types of homes are selling right now in Surrey. And if yours has been sitting, you need to know why. Today, I'm going to break down exactly which homes are stuck and which homes are flying off the shelves in weeks. After over 20 years of selling in all types of markets, I can tell you the difference comes down to two things most sellers get wrong. Okay, so the luxury market in South Surrey and White Rock just hit a wall. Now we're talking months of supply of homes over $2 million, like 12 months or more of inventory in that segment. There were 225 active listings over $2 million in South Surrey and White Rock in January 2026, and only 9 of them sold. So why is this happening? Well, the market is slower and luxury always is the first market to feel it. And the more expensive stuff is also the last to pick up when the market recovers. You need that lower price stuff to sell if you want people to move up into those more expensive homes. And right now, it's real tough to even get that lower price stuff sold. You know what's wild? I'll break this down when we get to talk about the presentation of homes, but even at this price point, staging makes a measurable difference in sales speed. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So I think sellers are all kind of anchored to the 2021, 2022 peak prices. The Fraser Valley Composite benchmark is down roughly 24% from that March 2022 peak. But a lot of luxury sellers are still pricing off of that peak instead of looking at what's actually sold in the past few months. South Surrey and White Rock detached benchmarks have slid from the high 1.8 million range into the mid to high 1.7 million range over 2025 based on recent year-end data for that area. For current listings, a lot of them are still reflecting those older expectations. And look, I get it, you remember what your neighbor sold for in 2022 and you put money into your home, but buyers today aren't looking at 2022 prices. They're looking at what sold last month and last week. And if you're priced above that, you're gonna sit. Here's another big issue. A lot of sellers think, well, if we price it higher, we leave room for negotiation. But in a buyer's market like today with 10 to 12 plus months of supply, that strategy backfires. Padding the list price just causes your home to get filtered out when buyers are comparing options. But I always add this in when I'm talking about luxury homes in a down market. If you're thinking about moving up from a condo or a townhouse into a detached home, this is actually when the math works in your favor. Let me give you an example. If the market comes down 20%, a condo that used to be worth $500,000 is now worth $400,000, $100,000 less. But a detached home that used to be worth $2 million is now worth $1,600,000 or $400,000 less. So your condo came down 100, but that dream home came down 400. That's why all the real estate books say you're best to move up in a down market. So there's way more equity to be gained if you move up in that down market. And we're starting to see a lot of that actually starting to happen. People are trying to get into houses out of their townhouses because the spread between prices is just so much better now. So if you're sitting in a condo or a townhouse thinking about making that move, now might actually be the time. You're gonna save way more on what you're buying than on what you're losing when you're selling. And that brings us to those condos because they're facing their own unique challenges right now. Now listen, if your house sat on the market and didn't sell and you're wondering what's actually going on, I have helped hundreds of sellers in Surrey, White Rock, and Langley price and position properties in this exact type of market. My contact info is right in the description below, so reach out to me. All right, let's get back to it. So the condo market is kind of drowning in inventory right now. Entry-level condos, the 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom units that a lot of people bought when the market was hot are struggling. Condos have had one of the biggest price corrections out of the major property types across 2025 and into early 2026. Across the Fraser Valley, the condo benchmark price was down 8.2% year over year in January 2026. And in North Surrey specifically, which includes that city center area I've talked about in my other videos, the condo benchmark price has dropped 10.2% in the past year, taking the benchmark price from the high 400s down to the low 400s. It's pulled back more than detached or townhomes in percentage terms over the past year. That's steeper than detached or townhomes. We're seeing a lot of price cuts. Now, why is this happening? It's simple. A lot of these condo owners bought at a premium and they're pricing too high for the current market. Many were purchased in 2021, 2022 when the prices were at or near peak levels. With current benchmarks in the low 400s to the low 500s, sellers who insist on list prices that match those peak numbers are just above what the buyers can justify. And I see it all the time. Someone calls me up and says, Scott, my condo's been on the market for 3 months, what's going on? So I pull up their listing, their price say in the low 500s. Then I look at what's actually sold in their building, the area in the last 60 days, and it's all in the mid to high 400s. They're sitting because they're overpriced. That being said, here's the other big issue. There are a lot of condos on the market, so it's super competitive. You need to be the best condo option for a buyer. Board data shows overall Fraser Valley inventory is about 40 to 50% above normal, and the condos are a major part of that. And when you drill down into Surrey, we're seeing roughly a year or more of supply in certain condo types. That's way more product than there are buyers. And stick around, because when we get to the success stories, certain pockets are still moving fast even with all this inventory. And the difference comes down to one thing. But let me finish this first. So with so much inventory, buyers can pick and choose between dozens of near identical units, and that's just the reality. So you need to beat the competition on at least one of these things: price, condition, layout, location, including like the exposure or the direction your unit's facing, parking, and storage. If you're clearly not better on at least one of those, you're gonna sit. And look, it's not just resale condos, there's a ton of new supply sitting around too. A lot of it is compact, high density units around the SkyTrain stations and in that city center area. Buyers right now are way more choosy about livable layouts, storage, parking, and things like light in the unit. They're asking about concrete versus wood frame, strata fees, and building condition. And a lot of the older places or the less efficient layouts, they need a clear price advantage to move. So at the lower end, a lot of Surrey condos are in trouble. Too much inventory and sellers still pricing like it's 2022. The result is that unless you're the best price and best presented condo in your category, you're one of a dozen very similar options and you sit. If you're selling a condo right now, reset your expectations to today's comps, not the purchase price. Like I say, the market is the market. With condos taking around 5 weeks or more to sell on average and way more units on the market than normal, buyers can tour multiple buildings, cross shop versus Surrey versus Langley, and walk away if they don't meet the market. But price alone won't save you if your listing looks like every other cluttered, dimly lit condo with bad photos that buyers scroll past, which is exactly what we need to talk about right now. So here's what's happening when buyers search for Surrey homes online. They're scrolling through dozens of listings, and the ones that are dark, cluttered, or poorly photographed, they don't even make the showing list. And this is across all price points. Buyers are way more picky right now, and they want a lot for what they're paying. So with so much inventory in the market, buyers are buying the best looking home they can get in their price range. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, does staging and presentation really make that much of a difference? Yeah, it does. The Real Estate Staging Association has a study that shows staged homes sell a lot faster, around 70% less time on the market, and often sell for 5 to 25% more than unstaged homes. And honestly, that makes sense when you think about it. Buyers in Surrey right now have more time, more leverage, and no urgency. So homes that are dark, cluttered, dated, not cleaned up, or not photographed well, even simple stuff that should have been fixed before you list, they fall right into the bottom of the showing list. Even if you're pretty close on price, buyers will still lean towards the staged, bright, move-in ready competitor, even if it's the same price or a little bit higher. In a high inventory market, the best listings still sell. The average ones need better positioning and stronger basics, and a big part of that is how it shows and how it looks online. So here's what I tell sellers. The stats on staging and presentation are clear. Staged homes sell faster, and they sell for more money. And in Surrey's buyer market right now, if your home doesn't show like an A+ property, you're giving buyers one more reason to move on. If you're on the market, even if you're priced well, but you don't show well, like, what are you doing? This isn't an easy sell one weekend market anymore. You've got to take your time. You got to get it ready. This is one of the things we always stress and we provide. We provide staging and recommendations on painters, power washers, house cleaners. We've got a big list of people that can help with that. So those are the three big problems. Luxury homes priced like they're still in 2022, condos drowning in competition, and homes across all price points that just don't show well. But here's the good news. Some homes are still selling. Let me show you what they're doing different. Okay, so on the flip side, even though the overall market sits at an 8% sales to active listing ratio, a big buyer's market, there are pockets in Surrey and neighboring Langley that are still in a balance and even close to seller's market territory. What it comes down to is pretty simple. Homes that are priced right and presented well are still selling. Across the Fraser Valley, the best listings, good location, strong floor plan, updated condition, realistic pricing still are selling. And a lot of them are selling with sale to list price ratios around 97 to 99%. So stuff is moving. You just have to be the obvious choice in your category. In December 2025, Surrey detached homes that did sell were closing at roughly in the high 90% range of list price in about 5 to 6 weeks. And the ones that got there checked all the boxes. Priced right, showed well, and were in a desirable location. And then the strange thing is you actually have certain little micro segments that are actually hot. There's some attached segments with strong value proposition that are actually selling quite well. There's basically mini seller markets inside of a larger buyer's market. For example, Cloverdale and Clayton townhomes in the $700,000 to $800,000 range were showing a sales ratio of 18% in January 2026. That's almost a seller's market. Well located, realistically priced condos are still moving too. And mid-range detached homes in strong school areas and amenity pockets are selling also when they get priced right. Overall, detached numbers can look weak, but there's still demand for well-priced family homes, especially when they're a wide margin cheaper than the Vancouver core. So here's the key takeaway. In a typical month, only about 1 in 10 active listings sells. And the one that sells is usually the one that's clearly the best value and it shows the best in its category. I mean, like I say, everything can be hot if it's priced right. That's really the long and short of it. It's not really about a condo versus the townhouse, it's about where it's priced. And a lot of people just don't want to price their place at what it's worth because maybe they don't have to sell. Maybe they're just kind of holding on, hoping the market gets better. But right now, it's all about price. You get your price right, you're gonna sell your house. People rely on us to tell them the right price, even if sometimes they don't like what we're saying. But that's why people hire us, for our 20+ years of experience. We know what's going on with the market. If you want us to take a look at your place and tell you where it sits compared to what's actually selling right now, email me at info@moteam.ca. I'll give you an honest feedback on price and what you need to fix. We do this every day for sellers in Surrey, White Rock, Langley. So send me an email, text, or give us a call. I also put together a breakdown on something abnormal in the Fraser Valley. Inventory's up around the high 40% range, above normal. Prices are down and they're calling for roughly a low double-digit sales increase in 2026. Check that video out here to know why this window might be closing faster than you think. Hey, thanks for watching. We'll see you again in the next one.